Okay, so this video is not just a regular unboxing and review. It's going to be long because I'm going to kind of take you guys with me as I unbox it, set it up, compare it to my old Oneplus One, show you guys some photos, and show you guys some video, particularly video walking, so I can give you guys an idea how the optical image stabilization works. Um, Same with the photos. I took some photos at night last night, and I'll show you guys those to give you an idea how well it works at night. These aren't the ideal nighttime photos. They're my first attempt, but it will give you some sort of an idea of how much light it can pick up at night. Now, I'm going to go down a list of issues that I've heard about real quick and give you guys my take on them before we discuss them farther in this video. This video is going to be pretty long, so if you're really interested in buying one, it may be worth watching. Otherwise, I don't blame you if you turn it off like now. um, the button on the side to stop the notification sounds. I love that. No longer will you hear vibrations and bleeps during my videos, so long as I remember to turn the notifications off using that button and then turn them back on when I'm done. The USB-C cable. I was a little worried about that because it's new tech, but I totally see why they implemented it. It's absolutely worth it. It clicks in really nice and secure and deeply. It doesn't seem like there's anything that could break off from dropping it, and it's not going to wiggle. And from what I can tell, it's not going to wiggle and stop working when it gets loose in a year like most of the old style USB on phones had a habit of doing. I do miss having the themes that I had with CM12. I also miss the pause button when I'm recording video. I really miss the pause button. And the speaker is okay. It's not as bad as people are making it out to be online, but it's definitely not as good as the speaker on the OnePlus One. Hopefully they can fix that in a software update somehow. I really don't see how, because on the OnePlus there was 2 speakers, and with this there's only 1. So you can only tweak it so much, and you're only going to get so much sound out of one little speaker. But usually, most of the time, I'm using headphones or a headset, Bluetooth headset anyway. So I guess that's not the end of the world. A lot of people are complaining about NFC. I've had NFC on my last 3 or 4 phones, and I've never used it once. I know some of you do use it. I don't know what to tell you. If you really want this phone, you'll have to make do without it. We made do without it for years. It's not a big problem for me, and for most people it's not, but I understand there are some of you out there who have to have your NFC enabled phones. You might want to look at the, I don't know, I'm not going to suggest another brand, but there's plenty of them out there. The optical image stabilization seems to work really good. It's not as good as a gimbal, but when you're walking down the road, it's not nearly as shaky as an old style phone. And if I'm just holding it, my shaky hands don't show up quite as bad with this new optical image stabilization. As far as weight, the phone does not feel particularly heavy, maybe slightly heavier than the OnePlus One, but you really have to, if you're holding them both in your hand, it's such a little difference that you almost wonder, maybe the OnePlus One does weigh more than the two. I mean, it's that little of a difference that it's really hard to discern. The fingerprint sensor, a lot of people have had problems with that. I've had no problem. At first I wasn't pressing down hard enough. You do got to give it a firm press, but even after eating chips or greasy french fries or something and just wiping my hands on my shirt, I don't usually wipe them on my shirt, I'm just using that as an example, without washing, just simply wiping my hands, and I haven't had napkins, and I haven't had really any issues with the fingerprint sensor, so I'm really impressed with that. The screen brightness, when I'm outside I can still see it even with my glasses on, which pretty darn impressive if you ask me. And as far as the heating issues, it gets hot, but it doesn't really get hotter than any other phone out there. Of course, if you're using it while it's charging, it will get hotter than when you're just using it. And if you're using it with some really taxing applications, or running 4K video, then it'll get a little warm, but it's really not hot enough to be a concern with. I've heard people saying it's discomfort in their hand, it's so hot. they're real pussies. If it's too hot for your hand, then you should just give up on cell phones and technology altogether, because I can barely feel the heat most of the time. And even when it gets really hot, I'm like, oh, this is what people are talking about. This is nothing. Um, in the winter, it might, well, it's not even warm enough to warm your hands in the winter. So just take it from there. Now, you're probably wondering, why am I doing videos about phone reviews when I'm a camping person and I do a travel vlog and a pet vlog? If you haven't been watching my channel already, then you probably don't know, but the majority of my videos are filmed using my Oneplus One phone. I also have a pair of glasses with a camera in the center, not these, another pair, my pivot heads, and sometimes I'll use those if I need both hands free. I've also got a GoPro. Sometimes I'll use that if I want a wide-angle lens or I want a waterproof case. But the majority of my videos are done with my OnePlus phone. It was the One, and now it's the Two. This here was part of my video entry for the contest where I won the invite. Now, if you're still here and you're still watching, I'm going to start merging all these clips together and make one really long video to give you guys kind of a walkthrough experience of what it's like to get one of these and set it up. Right now, I'm using the front-facing camera. This is the front-facing camera on the OnePlus 2. The sun is mostly down. You can tell it's so low on the horizon that you can't even see it anymore. And you're still able to see my face and the trees and everything really well. So that should be a little bit of a testament to the low light sensor. My unboxing video of the OnePlus. Now, the first thing I wanted to get to was last year's packaging, which was way better. If you guys remember or saw the videos, it had the little pull string that opened it up, and the package was just really nice, really high quality packaging, SIM remover tool, chip, and all that. So this year's is a little more conventional. Now this here I bought because USB-C is a major concern of mine, since you only get one cable with the phone. This is the adapter. It comes with a little keychain holder thing, so you can still use your old style regular USB cords on your OnePlus 2. When I put my order in, there's a few accessories I want, but that was the one we had to get to right away. Now, let's try not to cut myself. Always never pull the knife towards you. Never pull the knife towards you. Unless you're just stubborn like me. No, it is a nice little box. And it's not cheap. It's as good as most phone boxes these days. A little tight to open. Phone popped right out. What is this? Some sort of quick start guide. Okay. Here's the new cord, the new blah blah blah. A little bit of wrapping around the phone itself. There's the fingerprint sensor, the screen. There's that back, the sandstone material. Pretty happy with what I'm seeing so far. I'll add more to this video as I go with using this, and I'll let you guys know what I'm thinking. Okay, I want to see how well the image stabilizer works. I'm just holding this with my hand. We're going to walk down the street, and the street is not really level. We're going to kind of be down here right on the edge between the street and the gutter to cause me to walk very uneven. And we're just going to see how shaky this comes out on video. See what kind of difference it makes as we go into and out of the shadows, how well the light sensor compensates. Look up towards the sun, see what that does. And now we'll kind of go out here to the middle of the street and try to be as steady as possible with it. I'm really hoping that this image stabilizer helps a lot. We'll see. Yeah, we're country like that up here. Okay, turn it around. My hands are pretty shaky and the screen doesn't look too bad, so I'll review this in a minute. All right, here on the left we have the Oneplus One. On the right we have the Oneplus 2. We also have our window open to let a lot of light in here. The dogs may see stuff and start barking during this video. They might try to walk in front of my camera glasses. We're just going to have to put up with that. Now, one thing I've noticed, the brightness is all the way up on both of these. And while this is a darker wallpaper, actually, let's just go ahead and change that right now and give you guys a little bit of a look at how the UI works here on the Oneplus 2. Now the outside dogs are barking, which could have mine going off any minute now, and it's going to be annoying, so sorry about that in advance. Just bear with me. I'm going to try to do this all in hopefully one shot, so we'll see. Okay, so now they have both basically the same kind of wallpaper, although they're on different galaxies right now. It's a little bit more fair, and as you can see, this is a lot brighter, especially with the window open in a bright lighting condition. It is a lot easier to read everything, including the tabs for the apps. Like I said, brightness is all the way up on both of these phones. So their claim that the new Oneplus 2 is easier to view in a bright light situation, I would say is confirmed. Now let's go on to one of the next things I wanted to discuss. The Oneplus One is slightly larger than the Oneplus 2. Just a hair, not enough to matter. I believe the screens are still the exact same size. Yeah, the screens are exactly the same size, but the actual OnePlus phone is a little bit taller. Now, another thing I've been hearing from a lot of people doing reviews is how the OnePlus 2 is so much heavier. I don't see that. As I'm holding it, at first I thought, oh yeah, it's a little bit heavier. Now the OnePlus One feels a little bit heavier. So I wouldn't say that the 2 is considerably more heavy than the 1. Maybe a little bit, now that I'm really concentrating on it, but not enough to notice a difference. Heating issues? Nothing. As far as heat goes, this thing has been actually, so far, cooler than the OnePlus One. Although according to my status widget, they're both running at 94.1 degrees Fahrenheit right now, which is pretty much the same. Charging. I was able to fully charge it in under 2 hours. From, I assume, it was almost dead. The battery seems to be holding out fairly well on both of these phones. No phone this day is great on battery, and if anybody tells you differently, they're a liar, or they don't use it very much. Sorry, but these phones do too many stuff, too many things, and if you're like me and you're constantly on your phone, you're going to be constantly wearing your battery down. So the next thing I wanted to discuss was the backs. Now, I am very sad that we don't have cyanogen anymore. Did I say that right? If not, I'm sorry. You can see the camera is a little bit bigger on this one. That's what lets in more light so that it can take better nighttime photos. The sandstone is still the same on both. They do have swap style covers for the two. The sandstone on the two is a much rougher, more gritty sandstone. The one feels almost smooth in comparison, which is fine. On a large phone, you don't want it to slip out of your hands easily. You can see this one slipped a little sooner than this one. I don't know if my hands were at the same angles. That wasn't a real fair comparison, but the clock has not been right on this Oneplus 2. However, I've only had it for less than 24 hours, so I'm still figuring a lot of stuff out. I've gone into the clock setting, and it gave me my local time, but apparently the phone thinks I'm somewhere other than where I'm at. So that's something else we've got to work on. We did download the most recent update. As far as I use this app called Gallery KK because Stock Lollipop, they gave us a gallery in Cyanogen mod. I hope I'm saying that right. But there's no gallery in Oxygen or Stock Lollipop. So I download an app called Gallery KK, which works exactly like the old gallery. And I don't know how these photos are going to show up over the pivot head glasses. But here's some photos I took yesterday. Now that was up there on the porch with just Christmas lights on. You can see the tree and the mountain in the background. Even though you can't see them very well, you can see them. And that is awesome for a camera phone. You know, to be able to take pictures at night, period, is amazing for a camera phone. That was with the flash on. This was actually right before dark. I was so surprised to go outside and realize that my screen was actually brighter than the true light outside. This is not the sun setting, that's the moon. So I hope this is showing up okay on camera here. I've got the adaptive brightness set on this one. It's not actually full. It was full before because we had... Oh, I don't know. I don't know why that got so dark. Anyhow, so far no heating issues. This one has gone up a couple degrees just since we talked about the heating issues a minute ago. Went from 94 to 96 just from viewing the gallery. That's nothing. You're not going to have the themes like you did with the OnePlus 1 and CM12, although this does have the dark theme built in, which I'm using now. I've been using it since last night. To be honest, I really can't hardly tell the difference. Okay, there we go. Now we're out of dark and all this background stuff is white. Now we're in dark and it all... Okay. That's the difference with that. And I think I prefer the dark mode. Most of these are pretty similar to your options on just about any Android phone. The fingerprint sensor, as I said, I had no problem at all with the fingerprint sensor. But one of the other reviews I saw, a guy suggested registering two fingers. So you register this finger and this one, and whatever's your preference. But by having two fingers registered, if you have a problem getting one to register, then you have your other finger trained in, and you can just bring it in and hopefully fix the problem. I think the time has finally fixed itself, so that's good. I think putting the SIM in is what straightened that out. So as you see, it's fairly straightforward. It has a frequent apps section over here, and you've already got a built-in weather widget. I've added a few of my own. I'm anxious to get this review up, but there are a few other things we will probably do before we actually post this. I want to be as thorough as possible. I'm also trying to get a good idea how the battery life's going. From what I can tell, it's pretty darn good. I got up at approximately 7:30 this morning, and I've been going non-stop off this battery, doing things constantly, and I'm still at a half a charge, so that's pretty good. That's a little bit better than what I was getting with the Oneplus One. Okay, we've used this a little bit more. We went out and took a few more pictures. I noticed it did get a little bit warm. The temperature gauge up here went up to 112 while I was recording some video. But not really any hotter than my other phone would have gotten. I think the only reason I noticed it more was just because of the metal side. One of the things that I'm not real happy with about the Oneplus is when you go to record video, there's no pause button. This button will take a photo of whatever you're doing your video on, but there's no pause button like there used to be for the Oneplus One. I used the pause button all the time. That was a really important feature for me, and I'm hoping you guys will bring it back. Alright, my dog's trying to get some attention. So yeah, bring the pause feature back if you guys are watching this OnePlus. It was very useful. There's a lot of improvements I think could be made with the camera software, but for the most part, it's pretty good. Boo, get out of the way. For the most part, it's pretty good, but it needs a few improvements, and I would say that pause button should be one of the first ones you should work on. Okay, so one of the major improvements I think they need to do for the video camera is to add the pause button that they used to have on the OnePlus One. I used that all the time. It was very helpful. Mostly the camera is awesome. The camera app is okay, but it's missing some things and some stuff that made the OnePlus One camera app a lot more user-friendly. And that pause button is my biggest letdown, the fact that they don't have that, because I used it all the time. I thought this button paused, but all it does is takes a still frame of whatever video you're recording. So that's something that they definitely need to work on. As you see, you've got your regular options: photo, video, panorama, slow motion, time lapse. When we put it to photo, it brings up a few more options down here. In your settings, you've got beauty mode, HDR, clear image. Not sure what the refresh did. Oh, that's not refresh. That's flip back and forth between front-facing camera and rear-facing camera. I have to have my pivot heads plugged in because I don't know if the battery's dying or what. These aren't very old. I need to call the company and find out what's going on. So, there's kind of a quick look at the camera and the different features that it has. As for the home button, it's just slightly depressed. So, what? Are you slightly depressed too? I said there's a slight depression there, and if you use a screen protector, it'll probably be a little bit deeper. But it's never not responded for me. And I have some pretty greasy fingers. I eat a lot of finger foods, chips, and stuff like that. The button has always been just fine for me. Okay, another thing I've heard several people mention on the forums or Facebook or different places is that they were afraid to take their back off and put their SIM card in. They make these backs to come off. That's why they have the swap style covers. I'm thinking about getting the rosewood, but I'm probably going to get the case from the company, oh god, I'm going to say this wrong, Seidio, Seidio. They're coming out with a case called the Dilex, Dilex. That's the same case that I had on my Nexus 4, which, if I can find, I'll show you in just a moment here. Here we go. Nexus 4, it has the aluminum kickstand. They won't have the lens cover. They might do that on another model, which I would really like. But it's a multi-layer case. It also has a holster option as you peel each of the pieces off. They're going to make something very similar to this. They just announced it for the Oneplus. So that's what I'm waiting on as far as cases. But a lot of people are going to want the swap style covers. Now, they have a little, I don't know how well you can see it, but a little hole right there, just big enough for a fingernail or a small screwdriver. You simply place your finger in there and you work it loose one click at a time. Once you've got your back off, the SIM cards both go in this little tray, which then slides into place. You've got your dual SIMs and you're good to go. And then the back goes back on the same way. Pretty simple. Now, I've thought about getting the rosewood back, like I said, but I'll probably just go with the Seidio case. I was really happy with the one that I have on my Nexus, so I'm sure I'll be even happier with the one they made for the OnePlus. And besides that, I was one of the people quite vocally begging them to make one for us. So since they did it, I have to buy their case now. Kind of like with this on-off notification feature button. That was something I kept posting about on the OnePlus forum, and I didn't think anybody was even listening to me. I just wanted a software button, but they actually went all out and put a full-on, you can go to all notifications, only priority notifications, or no notifications at all. And here's your first example of the front-facing camera. It is not completely dark, but the sun is behind the mountain. So this is a low light condition, not the lowest, but it's definitely not full-on daylight outside. And if we look here, we're going to focus in on the truck with the autofocus. Now we'll focus in on the windmill with the autofocus. Now we'll focus in on the house across the street. That gives you an example of how the autofocus works. So here's another example of a low light video. It's not completely dark out, but the sun is definitely set. I would absolutely call this dusk. As you see, all the cars have already turned their headlights on. The autofocus is being a little temperamental, but just touching the screen makes that straighten right out. It's really strange to me how my eyes perceive it to be much darker than the camera. The way the camera lets more light in, it magnifies the existing light, is the only way to explain it. If you were standing right here next to me, you'd be able to see these mountains are a lot darker, the skyline's a lot darker, everything's a lot darker in real life, yet it still seems fairly bright in this video. So that is pretty impressive if you ask me. Can't quite read that sign, at least not on the viewfinder. Maybe when I review the video it will be more obvious. The word Arley's is kind of blurred out even with my eyes, so I can see why it's hard to see on the camera. And off in the distance there, we have the moon. I'm up here on what I believe is called Hooper Hill. I might be wrong about that. I could have swore that's what somebody told me its name was. It's not completely dark, but there's only a minute or two left until it is. We've also got a pretty bright moon tonight. It's not completely full, but it's very close. It's not going to focus on the moon itself, but that's helping to illuminate things a little bit. But this is about as low of low light as you're going to get without being in complete darkness, anyhow. The sun is off this direction, so we're going to get our most light from over there. When you focus, it helps bring in some of the details of these mountains, but you know, it is still a camera phone. It's not perfect, but it is far superior in low light situations to any other camera phone that I've had. And here's another low light situation. I'm in my friend's car, which happens to have a lot of lights on the dash. It's not completely dark yet, but it's a lot closer. There's the sun up there through the tree. The tree is partially illuminated by the headlights, so don't get too excited about how clear that is. The moon, though, that's all its own sun. That's all its own light. Here on the dash, everything is easily visible, all the way down to the air conditioner control panels and the gear shifter. These lights are not the brightest. They look a lot brighter on the screen than they do with my naked eye. So it's just one more example of some low light video for you guys. Now it's completely dark outside. The house across the street, you can just make out the lights. You can't really see the windmill at all. We do have a full moon tonight. Well, almost full. And that's fairly visible. The back of my RV is visible. Of course, anything that's even slightly lit becomes very visible, like the porch with that little string of Christmas lights on it. Not seeing any stars, which doesn't surprise me. It is still a camera phone, but I was hoping it would work for starlight too, but that's fine. I'm pretty impressed with what I'm getting with it. My old phone, you wouldn't see the porch at all. You'd just see a little string of lights. So that's a serious improvement in cell phone low light video and camera technology.